The medicine we use every day to treat us when we are unwell can also be poisonous if not well used. In the recent past, in Kenya, we've got stories of people who have had their drinks spiked so that they are rendered powerless, unconscious sometimes, and crooks or the perpetrators of this crime can rob them or do other criminal activities involving them. What is this phenomena? It's been given a Kenyan nickname, kuwekewa mchele, which literally means adding rice or adulterating a drink with some impurities. What really happens? How does it work? And how can we, as individuals, prevent or safeguard ourselves against this phenomena from a medical point of view? Welcome to Dr. BMS channel. And as we delve into this, remember to click the subscribe button so that we can continue growing together in this knowledge about our health. So, spiking of drinks so that the victim is rendered powerless and a criminal activity is perpetrated. What is it and how does it happen? Usually, the criminals use drugs which are known to cause someone to be sedated, to feel sleepy, to feel paralyzed sometimes, or to lose control of their senses, sometimes to lose even their memory. There are many of these drugs, and their purpose is not usually to cause that, but it could be a side effect. It could be one of the effects that comes to a user while the good effect of the drug is being used. But the criminals turn the whole thing around and use the bad effects or the side effects of the drugs to perpetrate their crimes. So, what are these drugs generally? These drugs are in various categories, but they are generally drugs that are used to treat people who have mental illnesses. They are drugs that are used to make people sleep if they are having problems getting sleep at night. There are drugs that are used to make people not feel pain, become temporarily unconscious so that surgery is done, for example, in theater. And these drugs then, when misused, will cause the victim to black out, to lose their senses, to become unconscious. Some of these drugs are drugs that are used in veterinary medicine. You may have seen sometimes a vet doctor or game rangers in the park. They will shoot a syringe with medicine to bring down a buffalo or rhino so that they can do one or two things. If this drug is added onto human food or drinks, it will also cause that sedation, that tranquilization. And this is what the victims do. Some of these drugs are also drugs of abuse, recreation and abuse, narcotics, for example, morphine, cocaine, heroin, cannabis, all those groups of drugs that Dr. BMS talks about all the time will also cause this effect of making you sleepy, be sedated, lose consciousness, lose control, become paralyzed. And this is what these criminals use. Sometimes, in extreme cases, they have used outright poison. For example, sometimes people have used medicines or chemicals used to kill weeds, used to kill ticks on animals in the cattle dip, used to kill rats as rodents in the house. And in these extreme cases, the persons using these drugs to less with the food that we take or drink are interested maybe in harming you more than just robbing you. They may be interested in killing you. But it's all in the same spectrum of using drugs for the wrong purpose, using drugs to perpetuate crime. And so what are the common crimes that are perpetuated or perpetrated when these drugs I've mentioned are used? We've had cases of rape. In fact, we've got a phenomenon called date rape, where someone can go out with an acquaintance or a friend and they spike, they adulterate their food or drink with medication which sedates them, renders them unconscious, and they commit a rape. We have got the theft, the burglary, the robbery that I started talking about at the beginning of this video. The Mchele, where this person in the pub is wanting to rob the victim by putting the drug in their drink. Sometimes the crime could be murder. People have been murdered. I've talked of extreme cases where people can use outright poison, and this is an example of using medicines or drugs to perpetuate crime. Sometimes they have been used for suicide if you're doing it yourself, and in war situations or where there is things that are beyond the civil order, you could have torture. We've had these cases of torture where drugs are used. These drugs also can be used for some cases of law enforcement, which are not crimes per se, but is a special use of drugs away from the hospital, which can merit to be mentioned here. And in such cases, they have been used for interrogation, for example, although most jurisdictions now outlaw interrogations where torture is used and drugs are used, but they have been used. Sometimes they have been used by law enforcement for counter-terrorism. You may recall this event in 2004 in Russia, the Beslan school siege, where the Russian authorities pumped a building that was under siege by terrorists with drugs that made everyone to sleep, and then they stormed in and killed the terrorists. Of course, some of the children died as well. These drugs can also be used in executions. We have legal executions, for example. We have countries that still have the death sentence. So if you are sentenced to death, then sometimes these drugs can be used. These drugs also can be used for the proper way, the medical. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you can use them for pain relief, you can use them to make someone sleep, you can use them to help in surgery. You can also use them in euthanasia, which is medically assisted death, legal when someone is wanting to die, and it's allowed in countries like Switzerland, for example. This can happen. But principally, they are used for mental health problems, the majority of them. So when these drugs are misused by the criminals, then their side effect of sedating, making you unconscious and powerless, then becomes a prominent objective for them, and they then use that to perpetuate crime. What are the effects of these drugs once they are in your body? As I said, they'll sedate you, they'll make you sleepy, you lose consciousness, you become powerless, you can't defend yourself, and the criminals take advantage of that to do their crimes: rape, robbery, murder, all those. These drugs go beyond that. They harm organs, internal organs, particularly the liver, the kidney. Some of the victims of this spiking have had liver disease or kidney disease starting from that point on. Some of these drugs cause severe mental health problems. People lose memory. People become mad after that. And it's directly the effect of these drugs on your brain, as well as the psychological effects of you having gone through that trauma. So the effects of these drugs are really varied, and they go beyond just the effect of you getting robbed or a crime being perpetrated. It's therefore important that as an individual, you know about these drugs and what you can do to stay safe. And when we talk about safety, usually in the drinking scenario, the safety will start with the doctrine of safe drinking, which Dr. BMS have discussed. Keep yourself within the limits. You remember, if you are using a beer, a lager, 2 units, usually of 400, 500 milligrams. If it is wine, or normal wine, the percentage of alcohol around 11, 12, 2 glasses. If you are using whiskey, Smirnoff, spirits, then a tot per day. And we said, do not carry over so that the following day you say, yesterday I didn't take my recommended, so I need to top up. You will be overdoing it. So the first step is staying within the limits, because when you are within the limits, you are likely to notice if someone is up to something that's not good. If a criminal is around you, if these twilight girls are coming and wanting to be nice to you with bad intentions, you are able to know because your guard is up. The second thing is that know that this happens, and the knowledge prepares you to be on the guard. Forewarned is forearmed, so they say. So know that this happens. Don't just go out to the clubs to drink alcohol and have fun and lose yourself in the process, because some of the people there do not have good intentions. If you can't go with a buddy, a drinking buddy, you say, or go in a social group of people who are known to you and you trust each other and you can watch over each other, you can be your brother or your sister's keeper. When you're in the club, exercise some basic caution. Do not leave your drink unattended and you're going to the toilet, or you're going to the dance floor, you're going to answer a call because maybe where you are it's noisy. When you come back, you just continue drinking. Do not drink with strangers and just feel comfortable to receive drinks from them and feel that they're being nice. Some of them do not have good intentions. So basically, staying safe at an individual level in the drinking environment is about having your peka, your vigilance high, and using common sense. Because beyond that, if this drug is put in your drink and you take a sip, there's nothing you can do to help yourself. You cannot prevent any problem that is going to happen to you at that point in time. And if that happens, then it has to move to the next stage where you will be sedated, unconscious, and a crime can be perpetrated on you, or this may progress even to you being very sick, having to go to hospital, and in some extreme cases, people have lost their lives. If you end up in hospital, what happens in hospital when people come and they have had Mchele, or they have drunk, spiked drinks or food that was laced with these drugs? First, in the hospital, the doctors and nurses will be keen to make sure that you're breathing, your heart is beating. The things that sustain you as a living being are happening. As they investigate what really could be that you have taken samples of blood, urine will be taken. And in the process, as they do that, they may give medication that reverses the direct effect of some of these poisons or medicines that you have taken. We'll not go deeper into that because this is for general public. However, talking about this, I would like to finish by discussing a little bit more about regulations and enforcement of laws. What laws and regulations need to be put in place by society, by government, to make sure that this phenomena of spiking drinks goes down or is eradicated? First and foremost, the source of these drugs has to be plugged. And people buy these drugs from pharmacies. Sometimes they are smuggled out of hospitals. Sometimes you have them on the streets, and this can be checked by agencies that are concerned. If you go to a pharmacy, you need to have a prescription. The pharmacy attendant needs to make sure that everyone coming in has a prescription, and the source of the prescription can be traced, so that we do not have this over-the-counter sale of drugs that are supposed to be prescription-only drugs, because this is one of the ways these criminals use to get these drugs. Sometimes some of these criminals get this medication by pretending or feigning to be ill. So you go to hospital and you say you're in chronic pain and you can't sleep, so you need something to help you sleep. You're given some Valium or diazepam. The following day you go to another doctor, or you send an accomplice. You remember the story of Michael Jackson, the late musician, and how he was addicted to pain medication. And questions were asked in court, how did Michael Jackson get all this medication at once? Then it turned out that he had recruited a number of criminal doctors and medical practitioners who just prescribe, and sometimes he would send mules or agents who just go and feign illness and get this medication brought. So these methods are existing, and you need to know that so that you stay on the guard. Finally, I would say the business units, the clubs, and the business establishments that sell alcohol and other drugs of recreation, the legal drugs, have a responsibility which should be anchored in law, that they should take measures to eradicate this phenomena of drinks being adulterated for revelers who are in their premises. This can be anchored in law, and I think they have a responsibility. They can do something, because these cases of adulterating drinks, of lacing drinks with drugs and other poisonous substances, are usually done over and over in the same clubs. In fact, some clubs have acquired a reputation of being the ones where these things happen. They are notorious for that, and it's my estimation that the proprietors of this club have an idea who does this or how it can be eradicated, who can be the suspects. They can link up with law enforcement, they can sensitize their patrons, they can put notices, they can put guards to watch over the activities of revelers while they are having their good time, so that we do not have this problem of Mchele and adulterating of drinks. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video of Dr. BMS.